So another unarmed black man was killed by police in Minnesota. Really, as the Derek Chauvin and George Floyd trial is going on in Minnesota, this happened not too far away. So as you can see here, it says police Minnesota officer meant to draw taser, not handgun, in fatal shooting. And so I'll give you a little details on what happened. So Dante Wright, 20-year-old young black man, was driving in a car with I believe it was his girlfriend was the passenger. He was pulled over apparently for having air fresheners hanging from his rearview mirror. Now that's what the victim's family is saying. That hasn't been. I haven't heard anything from the police officers of why he was actually pulled over. And then, as the police officers ran his plates or whatever, found out that he had a expired registration and he had a warrant out for his arrest because he had a previous misdemeanor. I think it was for having a gun without a permit. So the police officers walk up to the door, ask him to step out of the car. He steps out of the car. Then they're attempting to arrest him, and a struggle ensues. He tries to break away, gets in his car, assumingly, to drive off. I actually forgot to mention previously, I think he also had a misdemeanor for running away from an arrest. So this kind of same thing happened in this situation, and he gets in the car. And you can, there's body cam footage that has been released. Y'all can go watch that. I didn't want to show it on the video. It's very graphic, obviously. You can see the police officer. She is yelling, taser, taser, taser. But you can see in the video that she's holding her gun. So she's yelling taser, which the chief of police is saying is protocol to let the officers around you know that you're about to shoot this taser. And you can, you see him get shot essentially, and then drive off, and she says, "Oh shit, I just shot him." So it appears to have been, accidental discharge of the weapon, which is what the chief of police said. That's what it does appear to have happened on the video cam footage. But regardless, he drove like a few blocks and then died on the scene. Just obviously unbelievably tragic story. And, like I said earlier, just another example of, an unarmed black man dying at the hands of the police. Now, was he in the right to resist arrest? No, he wasn't in the right to resist arrest. But tell me, what is the punishment for resisting arrest? It's not the police just get to shoot you on the spot. And I'm pretty sure it's been litigated in court time and time and time again that if someone is running away, you can't just shoot them in the back if they pose no imminent threat to anyone. So this officer should be charged. I believe it would be manslaughter. If I accidentally hit someone in my car and kill them, or if I, own a gun, whether it's licensed or not, and I'm waving around whatever and accidentally kill someone, I also would be held accountable for that. So in this situation, that officer, especially considering she is trained, in actually using a weapon, and handling a weapon, she needs to be held accountable for that man who just died at her hands. Whether he was resisting arrest or not is irrelevant, because the punishment for resisting arrest is not a cop gets to shoot you on the spot. So whether it was accidental or not, and it did appear to be accidental from the video, that does not mean that you can just walk away scot-free. You sign up for a job. When you sign up to be a police officer, you sign up for a job, and you're supposed to have to take the responsibility that comes with doing that job. And that also means bearing the responsibility for, the consequences of your actions if you make mistakes. So did it look like first degree premeditated murder? No, it didn't. But a man died. She meant to fire her taser, fired her weapon, and subsequently Dante Wright died from that. So that's pretty much what happened, with the situation. Y'all can go, like I said, go watch the body cam footage. I'm not going to show it here. So, it's obviously a big story going around right now. So Joe Biden was asked about it, and here's what he had to say about what just happened today with Dante Wright and this police officer.
I haven't called Dante Wright's family, but our prayers with their family. It's really a tragic thing that happened. But I think we got to wait and see what the investigation shows, and the entire investigation. You all watched, I assume as I did, the film, which is the body cam, which is fairly graphic. The question is, was it an accident? Was it intentional? That remains to be determined by a full-blown investigation. But in the meantime, I want to make it clear again, there is absolutely no justification, none, for looting, no justification for violence. Peaceful protest, understandable.
So you can see where Joe Biden's focus is. He's very nonchalant about the black man whose life was just taken away from him. Whether it's, like I said earlier, whether it was accidental or not, it does not matter in this situation. This man's life was taken away from him, and this is obviously a long string in a history of this happening to particularly unarmed black men. So I would love to hear Joe Biden have a little more urgency and care in his voice than what I just saw. But of course, at the end of the segment, he of course has to bring up, he has no, there's no leeway. There's leeway for this officer in the case where, this man died at her hands, but there's absolutely no justification for looting and for violence within protests. Forget about the violence that just happened, to the man that died, and the violence that just happened to his family, I believe he also had a kid. So we're not going to focus on that violence, but we're going to focus on the potential violence of looting and of angry protesters who have seen this time after time after time after time. So, and are we surprised? Of course not. Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. In the 90s, he was bragging about how he put into his bill the bill was so stringent and tough, it did everything but hang people for jaywalking. That's a direct quote from Joe Biden. You can go look at that. So, he doesn't really get the benefit of the doubt on these issues. And then he has Kamala Harris sitting right next to him, who, of course, was a horrible, I believe, district attorney in San Francisco, locked up thousands of people for nonviolent drug offenses, kept people in jail even after her office was ordered to release them because the prisons were overpopulated. And she said, well, no, her office actually argued that they needed those prisoners for prison labor. So, she called herself California's top cop. I mean, so, neither of them really get a lot of benefit of the doubt on an issue like this. And you can tell where Joe Biden's focus was in that. It was on the potential for the destruction of property and not the actual destruction and ending of a life at the hands of a police officer. And so, of course, there's always going to be those people, particularly conservatives, who would be like, if they would just not have resisted arrest, he wouldn't have died. In fact, this is Matt Walsh here. I don't know. I know he's a conservative. I think he's a conservative commentator. I guess he writes a blog, but he says if you don't resist arrest, your chance of dying during a police encounter is basically zero. The chance of anything good happening from resisting arrest is also zero. The people who refuse to say this or get mad at you for saying it don't really care about preserving human life. Now, of course, like I said earlier, that's not the issue. The issue at hand is the punishment for resisting arrest is not death. It's not death. The cops are not supposed to be the judge, jury, and executioner. That's why you have a judicial system. So, of course, he's gonna leave that part out. Of course, he'll leave that part out. But even if you take him at his word, right? Take him at his word. This happened 2 years ago. Now, this was a murder suspect. So he had actually murdered, I think a triple homicide suspect. And look how the police treated him. He was resisting arrest. I mean, very clearly in plain sight was resisting arrest. And I mean, the cops were running away from him. Like, I mean, he's literally
Matthew
strangling a
Bernard
man.
was suspected of murder, but it's not known why. He stripped off all of his clothes
This
and
man
ran
was,
into the streets.
he was, I mean, look
An
at that.
officer used mace to try to stop Bernard, but he kept on running straight at Lloyd Galden in a church parking lot.
I was just saying, good Lord, get me out of it, and I was fighting him as much as I could.
So obviously, you know, that guy was peacefully apprehended eventually. So he can resist arrest and be fine, even though he already committed violence on 3 other people and killed them. But Matt Walsh will say, just don't resist arrest and you'll be fine. But it seems like there's a double standard here. When certain people resist arrest, they get some type of death penalty immediately. But then when other type of people resist arrest, they get chased, or they actually run away. They get to run at cops who run away from them because apparently they don't feel threatened, even though he's already killed 3 people and was just seen strangling that man right there in that video. So we all know what the real issue is, and it's racism, not only in our system, our overall system in America here, but particularly within policing.